Good evening and welcome to the Saratoga Springs Planning Commission meeting for June 23rd, 2022. I've asked Commissioner Barton to lead us in the pledge.
Please repeat the pledge with me. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Commissioner Barton. Roll call this evening. All the commissioners are here except for Commissioner Burns, who is at a family get-together, so she is excused. The next item is the public input. Time has been set aside for any person to express ideas, concerns, comments, questions, or issues that are not listed as a public hearing on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. I will go ahead and close the public comment at this time. Move on to item number 4. It's a public hearing for Star Haven internal accessory dwelling units. Map amendment titled 19.20 Troy Perry applicant 423 West Stargaze Circle. And Ken Young will be presenting this item for us.
Okay, why is that not working? How do you turn it on? Helps to turn things on. Okay, commissioners, this hopefully should be a quick one, but if not, if we need to discuss, that's fine. We have already introduced this topic to you, but it was determined legally, since this would be a land use decision, that should have a public hearing at Planning Commission, and so we had to get that scheduled, and that's why you're seeing it again tonight. Before doing this, we did go forward to the City Council to get direction from them on how to handle these types of applications. So we are working on a code amendment that will kind of stipulate the process, and we'll be looking at setting a fee for this type of application based on the effort and time for review and such. But since that is not currently in place, the recommendation was just take it forward and process it and get it approved if it's going to be approved. So that's what we're doing here tonight. This is following the code that is in place right now. It complies with the section in 1920-04-1II that says a representative of a non-HOA neighborhood defined by residential subdivision plat or plats this is one of the people that can make this application. Applicants shall attach a signed petition or other documents of official certification representing at least 66% of the homeowners in the neighborhood in support of the request. So this application does meet that. And I'll just mention the applicant is not here tonight. Mentioned to me that he had a conflict with family, but he trusted that we had the information and that I would let him know how it went. So the request, if we look at our current IADU map that identifies areas of approved or prohibited or other designations that we have on the map. This is just the northern portion of the map because we're trying to zoom in on a very small neighborhood. As pointed out here on the blue arrow, coming in closer, you've got Crossroads Boulevard down on the very south end of the picture, or bottom of the picture. Star Haven or Stargaze Circle, it's a newer neighborhood. So the green is just to highlight the neighborhood. The red box is the actual platted area. And so here's the county platted area, and we've identified which people have signed the petition requesting to have IADUs approved in their neighborhood, in their platted neighborhood. 2 of them have not signed. As was mentioned at City Council, the one, Sloan Homes, is they have not yet had a sell to an individual property owner, and they just decided that they would hold out since they are not going to be the ultimate owners in that neighborhood. And Hunsaker, it was mentioned that he was aware of it, but just wasn't 100% on board, so he just, he was okay with the petition moving forward, but he just determined he wouldn't sign it. So the 4 that did sign represent 66%, 4 out of 6. So that does meet the requirement there. And that's all we have as far as visuals. But it is a pretty basic application. This would be a recommendation to the city council. So it will move forward to them on the 19th of July for approval or not. And I think from a staff level, we feel like there's not a concern or issue with this. And so we do support it and recommend it to you.
Okay, this is a public hearing, so I need to open this up for public comment. And I will close this for public comment. There's no one here to comment. And I will turn this over to the Planning Commission for questions and comments. Commissioner McConkey.
On these applications, will the planning department be looking at the development agreement as part of the review process? Is that
Yes.
okay? And that would explain why it wasn't part of the packet.
Right. So normally, this type of thing is not addressed in development agreements, but we have seen that, as you know, so.
Yeah, the development agreement I think was written well to accommodate the change. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's all. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner McConkey. Commissioner Kilgore.
So I can't remember. How was it decided that IADUs in this development are prohibited?
Well, everything, it started off with the council wanting to exclude or prohibit IADUs as much as possible in the developed community. And so basically, it did start off with everything that is currently existing was going to be prohibited, and those areas that are yet to be developed would be allowed to have them come in. But then there was Fox Hollow that made a request before the amended map that we see now, and a request was put before City Council, and City Council agreed with it. And so unfortunately, I don't have that area of the map up here, but if you're familiar with Fox Hollow in the south end of the community, that neighborhood has been designated as IADU approved. And so everything other than Fox Hollow that is currently developed is now shown on the map as prohibited. So anybody now within the prohibited area, you know, if they represent according to the code requirements, can request that they be approved. So this is the first one that we've had after the new map was amended.
Okay, and then if the city council wanted to just blanket disallow IADUs by having these neighborhoods say that they do want it, does that upset some kind of plan or future, you know, idea of what the city council was thinking of?
Well, I don't know. I think they just determined that there should probably be some provision in the code that would allow a majority of property owners to determine their own situation. So that's why that was added in there. Okay. We'll see just how much that may affect the map into the future.
Right. And then, so potentially, so I'm thinking that if the houses currently are single family, and then if they all become have IADUs, it's potential that we could be doubling the traffic. Because right now, if it's one family, they may share cars or whatever it is, or they're younger. And then once the younger younger family members move out, then those parts of the house are now available to rent or do whatever they want to as far as the IADU is concerned. So it could potentially double traffic. And so I was wondering if there's any issue, if we've looked at whether doubling traffic or cars in the area will cause any problems for the current roadways and such.
So I will let Scott, our engineer, address that, but I'll just mention that we know that the development of the roadway is sufficient for even more capacity than this neighborhood will allow. Also utility lines, Scott can confirm that. But one thing that I want to bring up is it may be a misunderstanding or I don't know a better way to put that, that when homes have an IADU, we're doubling the density. I don't believe that's true, and it hasn't borne out to be true in other communities, mostly because a home that has an IADU is normally, in most cases, you will find, and this isn't a scientific study, one perhaps should be done, that it is in homes where the family, the owner family, is small. Maybe it's a single parent, maybe it's a single person, maybe it's an older couple, maybe it's just a small family, and they will rent out a portion of their home to, again, another small family. That the density and usage of utilities, roadways, all that is no different than a home across the street with 5 kids and some of them teenagers, their cars, the utility capacity, that they use, it's about the same. And you rarely will find a large family renting to a large family in the same home. That normally is, that would be a rare situation. So I think, again, you take the same home that once had a large family in it, the kids grew up and now mom and dad are on their own empty nesters, but they've got underutilized space in their basement. So they're going to rent it out to a small family. And now they have the same capacity or usage of their property as they used to have when their kids were there.
Okay, yeah, so I didn't think density would change, especially, does it really matter? Because if it's a 5-bedroom house, it's still a 5-bedroom house. So I don't think that the number of, as far as like density of people would change that much. I just thought maybe cars would, because now you're going to have potentially 2 families. And so there'll be at least that other car for the other family. But from what you're saying, though, it sounds like it doesn't usually put any additional burden onto the roadways. So yeah, I never thought density would be that much of a difference, but I thought cars would be. But maybe that's not the case. So that's
again, a large family with 3 teenagers and they all have cars. That could be the same as a couple that has
right. That's true. Yep. Okay, and then where is the nearest park or public amenity to this area? And that probably doesn't have anything to do with the IADUs, but I was just wondering, if we do
that one throws me off.
Yeah, instead of 6 families, there'll be potentially 12.
It's Shea
10
Park.
families.
It's just to the north.
Just north of it?
Yeah,
Just north? Shea Park is just north. Oh, okay.
right there at the top. Yeah, that's Shea
Oh,
Park.
that's Shea Park there. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, terrific. Thank you.
Is that all the questions you had? Okay.
Yeah.
Commissioner McConkey.
I just wanted to make a comment about some of the questions you had, because I look at this as probability. It's possible that, my parents had a big family. It's possible you have a big family upstairs, big family downstairs, and that every house in the neighborhood could have that, but the probability is so slim and so low that it's highly unlikely.
Right. The fact that these 4 signed the petition doesn't mean that they're all wanting an IADU. They're just saying they're okay with that.
We may have, in fact, I've pondered this over this past year with the increasing home prices and rental prices and so forth. We may see some subdivisions that the big selling point, and maybe we already see it, the big selling point is it's an I-80 approved area, and so the homes are built that way, but then the infrastructure might need to accommodate that, but maybe be the same anyway, because you're still going to have the same situation of, I certainly know plenty of people. There's 3 people in the house, 2 living in the IADU and 1 living upstairs, so.
Yeah. So, yeah, and that's a common situation, as I mentioned before. Sarah is an example of that. She lives in Eagle Mountain, and she is a single parent with 1 child, and she has an IADU in her basement she's been renting to a single parent with 2 children. So, That's a common situation when you see that. I am aware that there's a new developing neighborhood in Eagle Mountain that is an IADU approved. Basically, the homes, most of them will be built with an IADU. So I think if we get a development that we know by plat and otherwise that, we know that most of these homes are going to be IADU, I think that's an opportunity for us to look at, well, do we need to have greater capacity on roadway width and utilities and such? Otherwise, even Beacon Point is a neighborhood that has approval for IADUs. That was based on their community plan previously. So I didn't mention that when I mentioned Fox Hollow, but they are one. But we've only seen a few in that neighborhood, one that I'm looking at right now. But most of those homes are just single families.
There's one challenge that is in the back of my mind, of course, with these IADUs is they're only legal as long as the owner lives there.
That's right.
As soon as the owner leaves and an investor purchases the home and rents out the upstairs and downstairs, which I've had some discussion with some individuals about that who wanted to do that, and I just said that's probably not going to work. But that becomes a code enforcement issue, and that certainly can potentially become a bit of a burden. But
again, I don't think the
nature-
impact of that is going to be very large, but you're right. It would be something that once we became aware of it, then we would have to follow up on that.
yeah, even the building code requires a 2-hour separation between in a duplex situation like that. But anyway.
Thanks, Commissioner McConkey. Any other comments or questions from the commission? I had a question. Is this legislative or administrative?
This, I believe, is legislative.
Yeah, it's legislative.
So it would be like I'm thinking maybe similar to a zone change or not quite that big.
It's absolutely legislative, and you're making a recommendation again to the council, whose decision is also legislative. So they have discretion built into the code. It's a may in the code. It's not a shall or anything like that.
I just kind of took over and didn't turn time over to Scott. I don't know if he still wants to make any additional comments.
Ken did great, so he covered pretty much all of it pretty good.
Okay. The other thing, I wish the applicant was here because I wanted to go through some of the specifics about what they need to do to have an IADU and make sure they were willing to do that if they were going to go ahead and do it. Because this allowing it is one thing, then making sure your house has a separate entrance and additional parking. I did email and ask about the road size, and this road size is built under the latest standard, unlike the rest of Aspen Hills that has smaller roads. So one of my questions is, if we have, let's say Aspen Hills decided that they wanted to allow IADUs, would we get something from the fire marshal? Because the code in there, 1920-04 number B says any request to amend the map to permit IADUs in neighborhoods or residential subdivisions having roads that were built under lesser than current standards shall require approval by the fire marshal. Will we have something in the packet?
Yes,
from
there
him?
would be a memo from him stating that, whatever concerns he might have with that.
Okay.
So I did want to mention the process to get approved for an IADU. Just because we have it on the map doesn't mean just go ahead and do whatever you want. It does require a building permit unless, at one point or the other. So when the home is built, if the plans call for an IADU, then that is reviewed at that time and a permit is issued based on it including an IADU. Otherwise, they would have to come in after the fact and get a building permit for finishing up the basement or whatever is required by code. So there is a building permit either way with that required.
Okay. Basically, I wanted to make sure the applicant knew that just because it on the map says they can do it, they just can't throw a sign in the window and
Right.
start renting out their basement or whatever they're going to do. That was,
Yes, there's a
Process.
registration that they have, a form that they have to fill out.
Okay.
And if, for some reason, well, and we would do an inspection on this just to make sure, but if they had it pre-built and it just didn't meet, or we didn't know about it, there wasn't a permit issued for it, we'll just go out and look, and if it's all fine, well, then we'll just sign it off. So in that case, a building permit may not be issued because it meets code. That will probably be a rare circumstance. A lot of times when things are done outside of a permit, you find problems, but, but anyway, we're covered either way that way.
all right. The other thing I wanted to, because this is a cul-de-sac and I live on a cul-de-sac, my neighbor had relatives living in their basement for a while, and one of the things that I noticed is because it's a cul-de-sac, all the homes have a lot of frontage, and the relatives that lived in that house had two cars. One of them, they were able to park in the driveway, but the other one ended up being parked in front of my house, not their house. So I wanted to let the owners of this cul-de-sac know that you probably should make arrangements for the second car that we can't require a parking place for, so that you don't run into issues with your neighbors. Commissioner Barton, go ahead.
So we sometimes run into the Harvest Hills, and so what has come back is that the road is public parking. To be a good neighbor, you wouldn't park in front of your house, right? In front of somebody's house every single night, but really, the road is public parking, so they can park wherever they want. So I don't know if that's gonna come up or not, right? But I mean, it is what it is.
Right, and we would go up and address parking concerns if they're, coming over the curb or something
Right.
like that, but otherwise, it's kind of a first come, first serve.
Yeah, yep.
I just want them to be aware,
Yeah,
that's all. But again, they're not here.
Good neighbor, yeah.
Right,
In cul-de-sac, it's, usually it's, it happens all the time.
right. But yes, I wanted to bring that up, but again, the applicant's not here, but I want to be on record so that that goes on there. And then the other concern I had was, I think, covered with water and sewer capacities, and it sounds like we are looking into that if that needs to be handled. That's all I have. Any other comments or questions? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion if there's other. I move to recommend to the city council approval of the Star Haven Estate request to amend the IADU map to designate that neighborhood as IADU approved as outlined in exhibits 1, 2, and 3 with the findings and conditions in the staff report dated June 3rd, 2022.
All in favor, say aye, or wait,
We need a second.
we need a second first, right?
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Kilgore and a motion from Commissioner McConkey. Do we have a question on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That passes unanimously. Okay, on to the next item, approval of minutes. Do we have any changes to the minutes we need to turn into Kayla this evening? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes for June 9th, 2022.
I move to approve the minutes, the planning commission minutes for June 9th, 2022.
Do we have a motion from Commissioner Kilgore. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a second from Commissioner Barton. Do we have a question on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That passes unanimously. Do we have any reports of action for tonight? No reports of action. Commission comments. Anyone like to
I
make?
have a question.
Go ahead.
What, we had a ordinance change about the curb, the approach width. Did that get approved by the city council? Increasing the width? Wasn't there a drive approach width beyond greater than 30? Maybe it was just a
Yeah,
conversation.
that was
My memories.
another that Jeremy was, that was
Yeah.
a couple months.
Was that just a discussion we had, or was that a?
I'm unfamiliar with that, so I might have to check.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm certain that was included in,
Needed the 5 foot from property line or something like that.
I believe that's what was in there, but it was Jeremy with Public Works that brought that forward.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Director's report.
Okay, I don't really have much to report. Other than we do have a new planner that will be starting on July 5th to take the Planner 1 position that David Rogers vacated. And then with Sarah taking the planner position, we have another senior planner position. We are interviewing for that one, so hopefully that will help us to fill our vacancies and take care of our workload a little better. We were initially planning on having tonight be the review of the general plan, but there were so many red line comments from the last go-around that we needed just a little bit more time to prepare the new draft, which we just received yesterday. And you will be receiving that if you haven't already to look at in preparation for next week's meeting. And that will be solely general plan.
It's in the packet already for next week.
Oh, good. So you can start looking at that. Do we need, do we need to go into a closed session this evening?
No.
All right. If that's the case, then this meeting will stand adjourned until next Thursday, June 30th.
This is rough.
Oh, did you want to say something, Fred?
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, yeah, that driveway code stuff passed. Yeah, I know that, so, yeah.